everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Today we're going to be discussing Devil Savior DS-04 Smash. It's funny, I dropped the saturation on this because it was a little too green. Like maybe this webcam responds really well to green light, but he's a little too not green at the moment, so that's better. Hey, Shark07. So this is Devil Savior Smash. He is from the same company that made Split, which forms the head of their Troublemaker, their version of Devastator called Troublemaker. He is a lot more tractable than Split was. Split is a real pain in the ass. This has a very Toy World engineering design to it. This and Split. Toy World tends to get a little carried away. They're a little bit like puzzles, and it's not the end of the world. I like puzzles. But if they would just work out some of their clearance issues before they went to final production, that'd be great. So while this thing's still fresh in my mind, let's do a live example of it transforming. One of the harder things to do is to stitch everything into a vehicle mode, so we're going to go ahead and go to vehicle mode, and then we'll zip past robot mode. I put him back in robot mode at the end of the shoot because I needed to do his portrait, you know, for the video thing. Just trying to make sure he's in proper robot mode. So he's pretty cool, pretty imposing. I swear Split is like taller than him and the vehicle is bulkier. I think it's because they're really trying to make sure Split can form like a really big Devastator head, like a big lumpy old Devastator head. Consequently, this vehicle, which is supposed to be, I mean, it literally says on it that it's a Cat 773B. Now they cheat a little bit because they call it GAT. Where is that? Oh, it's on the, oh my god, it's not there. There it is. So they call it GAT instead of CAT. So they get away with it, I guess. But they literally put the model number of this truck on here. And this truck does look like that. But the wheels on that truck are much bigger than the wheels on this guy. I think they made a little compromise because they didn't want big wheels to deal to what do you do? I mean, if the wheels were like twice as big, it would look ridiculous in robot mode. So I like to get the legs partly out of the way. We're going to flip up these skirts. That's kind of where they store in truck mode. And you straighten the legs out a little bit. There's ratchet joints there. And then we're going to slide the toes out, which is one of the weirder things about this transformation. But for vehicle mode and for arm mode, or leg mode, these have to be slid out. And until you get used to like where the leverage is, I mean, basically you just hold the bottom edge of the foot and get your thumb like onto this protuberance and you slide it. And it always slides outward. So it's easier to remember in robot mode which way to slide it because you're not all turned around at that point. So what we're going to do is we're going to tuck up the arms a little bit so that they're just in vehicle mode, since we have to get them out of the way anyway to work on the legs. This is on a rotating joint. It's a little hard to see, but it rotates. It's hard to rotate it when it's like just straight up. The best I can tell you is that you should make it extend past here and then bring it up, and it's in position to tab in to this little tab on his forearm. And I guess that's CG accurate. I mean, it serves no purpose in foot mode. It's just, in fact, you just have to put it away again in foot mode. So it's a strange one. But for any mode, truck or foot, you just have to make sure that, you know, it lands here when you unfold it. You want to kind of tweak it up a little bit. For truck mode, we are going to go straight with the arm. And fortunately, they give you a wrist so he doesn't have his hands mispositioned. But there's two hinges here. You want to make sure this one goes all the way and then fold the hand hinge. And then for truck mode, this goes like this, and you have to turn this 180. The instructions show like a crazy something going on, but all they're trying to tell you is to turn the bicep 180. You don't have to do anything with this joint. The instructions are very odd when it comes to that movement. It's simpler than they make it look. We're just going to fold this up, straighten the arm, and flip this over 180. Like that. So now the arms are in robot or vehicle mode for the most part. The head, you turn it around, and it's actually on a double joint. Let's look at it from the side a little bit. So there's a pin joint there, and it's going into the face, where there's another joint that comes back out. There's another joint in the face. So the whole thing lowers down if we look at it from the side like this. So it lowers down. So it helps to be aware of that. It makes it easier to like arrange his face and pose his face if you and the whole thing ends up pointing almost upward when you stow it. But it stows all the way down. It stays out of the way of everything in both vehicle and leg mode when you do it that way. Yeah, I saw the video Henshin guy did for Knight Orion. I just gotta say, go home, Toy World, you're drunk. That's what I told him. I mean, the people that make, like I said, this is very similar to Toy World in that sense. But those designers, they have problems with clearance, but they come up with some really interesting, clever things. I'll tell you the main reason I won't get Toy World Orion, other than, you can't buy everything. But I don't have any intention of getting it because for me, it doesn't really turn into the truck. The truck is very lumpy and wonky, and I'm not sure it has to be. I mean, certainly Unique Toys showed us that it doesn't have to be weird and lumpy as a truck. But I mean, I like Toy World's approach. It's interesting. What do you think of all the third-party figures that have been announced at TFCon? I mean, TFCon was okay. There was some interesting... I'm not really prepared to talk about it. I guess I should be, but I remember there was a couple of companies, I can't remember off the top of my head, that were like new products that nobody had seen before, but then, King Toys kind of disappointed by showing up with, the same gray mock-up of the bird that they've always had for months and months and months. So I guess they were just trying to tell us, hey, King Toys didn't go out of business. So it's good to know, but who knows when they're going to finish that combiner, or if. It's cool in the meantime because they are cool individual figures. We're going to uncurl the front of the truck. It does tab into a tab on the thigh. So you can kind of line it up, and it ends up kind of at a little bit of an angle when you do that. I mean, flat here, but the side is angled. You can see like the hinge back here, this hinge is further towards the center line than the other hinge. But we fold that completely out. Another reason that the arms are helpful to be out of the way by now. And then we're going to fold this guy over 90 degrees at the waist, like this. And then we can rotate these. They're kind of faceted, so they fit around his crotch. So you have to make sure that you're already folded 90 degrees before you do that. But you just tab these together. And now you can sit them down. I kind of did that for convenience sake, because now you can just kind of sit them on the platform and have them really not move while you're trying to do the other shit. This is a real mess. There are ways you can do this where you suddenly discover that you can't plug these guys in. They do plug in, and it will kind of hold. It's not a tight plug, but if you've transformed everything the right way, if you've got it right, then you can kind of get them to plug in and stay. There are other ways where it doesn't seem like it works at all, or I've seen people, especially, like the main thing I see people do is they will flop this over the post. And that's plainly not what the instructions are trying to tell you. And you just have to realize that instead of flopping it over the post where you use this joint like this, what we're trying to do is invert that joint and arrange these parts just so, and then this thing can actually get across to where it's supposed to be. So that's the way it's supposed to be. It also helps to have this like this. Now, you have two joints here basically. You can see the screw for one here. This joint rotates around that post. And then of course this rotates around the post. And for robot mode, you definitely want it like this, where this peg is sitting on top of the wheel. Because, you know, if you try to bring it around the other way, it doesn't, there's nowhere for some of the parts to go. You know, it doesn't work that way. So this is this way so that it fits underneath that armature properly. And then this has room to go. So it has to be that way. But for vehicle mode, it has to be around this way. So the peg is pointed out like that. So just be aware of the two positions that you're shooting for there. But you have to kind of put it any old which way you can when you're dancing it around. They talk about in the instructions sliding these out. I find I only really have to slide them out for leg mode because they're supposed to be out for leg mode. You can maneuver these things out of the way. So we're just trying to flip that down, and then we're trying to get it behind, and then this one can move out of the way. And what I did in the video is I just kind of pointed this one forward, and then I discombobulated this one's linkage so that it sits nice and flat, and now there's plenty of space for that to flip back. And then for vehicle mode, you continue this one and you have to do this whole rotation here. Then these tab together and the pegs are facing out. They're looking at you. And then you take these shocks from behind and they tab in quite firmly to the wheels. So the wheels are kind of locked up now. Let's look at comments for a second. Yeah, I like the Planet X shockwave. That was pretty cool. Is that what it's called? Cactus? Yes, I'm going to get the all-in Protectobots from Ocular Max, of course. I almost get anything from Ocular Max. In fact, recently, Coulter came up for sale at, you know, not for some special price or anything, but the Chosen Prime sent me a mailer where they were like, hey, we got Coulter, we got the re-release of Coulter, which is their MMC DJD, I forget the character's name. So I pulled the trigger on it. I'm going to be shooting that this weekend. My cousin's going to send me Tigatron someday, but he's got stuff going on. It's not his job to send me Tigatron. Getting all of this, getting this all set up at the end as we're going backwards is for naught if this isn't set up. So let me show you the arrangement here. This, of course, tabs into the bed, and it can seem, if you don't have the angles right, that it's just impossible to tab it into the bed, that, you know, the angles don't work out. The main thing here is if you get this armature here and then try to arrange this armature any other way, you'll find that the this fell off, and I'll explain that in a minute. You find that it doesn't line up properly. So what you have to do is this hinge that this slider's on, it needs to be in front of these armatures. These should be tilted back as far as they can go, and this goes in front, and then this slider stays slid out, and then you can tab it into the bed. So it ends up looking like that, and that's why in the video I kind of pause at that position and like try to make it clear to the viewer, like, yours should look like this. There's lots of other ways it could look, but like that is the way it should look. So we can flip that whole thing forward, and then we'll talk about this real quick because it just happened again. But this thing, unfortunately, the joint broke, and I can kind of fake it by putting the pin in. But the joint broke, so be careful with this joint. I think the main problem was one of the angles can cause this undue stress. Like one of the angles this can sit at causes undue stress on the joint. So you want to be aware of that. I kind of try to show in the video like the particular dance you should do to avoid stress on this joint, but it is what it is. I asked if they can send me this piece from the factory, and maybe someday they will, so you can say. But the main thing for now is that we are keeping these together like they were in robot mode. And I just like to flip this up so it's just out of the way. It is a bit of parking, but it helps. Then we're going to separate the waist joint, just pegged in there. And there's just a little bit of a double armature. Maybe these guys are taking notes from Toy World or Fans Toys. Have little armatures all over the place. I'm just getting the plates under his butt glued back together. Okay. So you get that out of the way, that upper body's out of the way, and then we can work on the legs. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip these kneecaps in. You can do them at the same time or just leave one out of the way while you're doing it. For whatever reason, this leg is really stiff on the joints. I tried unscrewing the screws, didn't make any difference. But it helps to make sure that you start to fold this when you get past the pin. So you kind of roll it around. And I'll show you again on the other leg. But then you have to kind of shove it up and get the tab to tab in. There is there's a tab hole there and a tab here, and it goes in the tab hole. This leg's easier to show with because it's not quite so stiff. But basically we're going past that tab that's part of the combiner mode, and then we're starting to fold the leg, and then we're just kind of doing both joints at once, making sure this doesn't get stuck along the way. And then you just have to kind of shove it downward so the tab lines up. So it should look like this when you're done folding it. Not quite, because I didn't actually get the tab in. It should look like that. Folded in half. And then we can mate up these dovetails. You just have to kind of tweak them into position. And then you can take this leg apart again because you forgot to fold out the stupid hook. Maybe fold out the hook before you get as far as I got. Probably save you some time. It's right in the video. And then you hook these, and now this is all put together. And then, you know, before we made up the upper body and finish up the rest of this puzzle, we can just go ahead and take care of these wheel covers. So the cover flips around. It's got a bit of a hook here, so you do have to kind of tweak it to get it past the wheel. So it kind of hooks in the middle there. But we get that out of the way. The wheel's on a walking joint, you know, zigzag. And then we rotate this back to where it was, watching the wheel, and then collapse it in. To get it started again, you don't have to grasp at it or pull it. I mean, keep in mind, this is where it's connected, so you could tweak the joint. It does extrude through the other side, so to get it started in the other direction, we're just doing that. No problem. Do the same thing over here. Walk the joint down, flip it back around, and collapse it. And it does kind of lock into a particular groove there. All right, so now we're ready to get the upper body into the right position for truck mode. We're gonna do things here, so it's just loose, and then we're gonna deal with this joint. Now the trick is when this is up like this, these can impinge on this molded plastic here. So if they're all the way out here before you try to separate them, then you're going to kind of tweak the joint too far in this direction. And so a lot of times you might think, oh, I'll just go ahead and lock this up. I'll lock this up and then I'll do these joints. But you can't really fly them past these lumps of green plastic here once it's in this position, because it causes the joint to flex in this direction. So pulls it in this direction, which is, I think, what broke that joint. So before we get that far, we're going to get them separated while it's safe. So while this is down, this is constantly getting in your way, but you can kind of tweak it a little bit like that to kind of lock it. So we can tweak this down so that we get all the clearance we need in the universe. And then we can separate these, and we got to flip over these components here. This one's a little bit like an octagon feeling sort of joint, the way it flexes. And then we're gonna bring this down like this. You can see the joint even still kind of works when I have it pinned, but the pin works its way out, and there's no cap on the pin. You can see. Thank you so much, lid. Thank you for just flopping into the way. What a delight. What a delight. Just as I was trying to show, well, here you go. See, it broke off. You see the point there? broke. So anyway, this is not going to stay pinned. In fact, I'm tempted to just, I'm going to lose the pin altogether because F it. I don't want to have to find that pin later if they actually do send me the part. The idea here, though, is that these rotate down like this, and then I'm going to do this one just to get it done, and then I'll show you on the other one the better angling and stuff. But like that. And then on this one that's not broken, you rotate it down, and you kind of, it's really hard to explain. There's this long tab, and there's a tab slot there, center frame. And all you're trying to do is, while you still have, while this is still loose, well, the upper body hasn't been locked to the feet yet, you can walk this in and then slide it down as you're kind of putting things into position. So this one would be like that if it was locked. One problem you do run into is it'll get caught on the feet. You do want to make sure that the feet, if it's like this, it's wrong. See how the foot has gotten caught on the edge of the plate there. So what you want to do is make sure that the foot actually disappears into the plate. So then it's flat, or it'll be flat. And then you can take this and flex it down and tab those tabs into the backs of the legs. And then this piece I have to arrange by hand because the joint broke. There we go. All right. And that won't stay put for now because I don't have any way to hold it. Just make sure it's all straight. All right, so then this part, these tabs tab into the holes in the chest. You can kind of squeeze the wheels a little bit like this. I mean, don't break the joint too much, the socket. I'm just over squeezing it to kind of demonstrate it. But you put the tabs right up against the wheels and they kind of squeeze a little bit so that everything stays lined up so you can get both pegs in both holes simultaneously. It does have a tendency to fall out of those holes. It's not much of a strong grip, so your mileage can vary there. Put him on his nose here. So these pieces slide out, and then this can unfold. So it grabs this post, and it grabs it at like a 90-degree angle. So you want to make sure that you don't. You want to make sure that you close it at a 90-degree angle, so it sits on top of this little tab here, because you don't want it below that tab. So I can open it up and then put it below the tab, and then I got problems from there forward because it was never going to line. Nothing's going to line up for robot mode properly. So we just spread that out, and we can lift the bed out. It's amazing how much this bed collapses. It's very clever. So then we slide this down. These you have to kind of hyperextend them a little bit to get the tabs to go in. So I just kind of overlap a little there, and then snap it in. Same thing here. Going backwards we'll have a similar issue. And we can lower these down. They kind of bump into those, which is why I moved those in the video at a different moment. And then, in fact, we'll just keep these out of the way for a second. These, you have to kind of go hyperextend them down, and then you can press in the tabs. That's why I like to do it before the arms go on, so that I have space. This goes down like this. And then the arms rotate up. These butterfly joints have kind of extended, but they're not supposed to. And I'm just going to bring the arms in a couple of snaps. And we got to line this stuff up. So this tab goes in here. I find it helps to just kind of use a fingernail to like grab onto that ridge on that part, get it to slide in. And then this tab goes here. You can do similar ridge grabbing if you need to. And then this arm goes here. So this tab goes there, and this tab goes there. And then you can put the rockets in the bed if you want, if you think a dump truck looks natural with rockets in the bed of the truck. But oh, and there's a flap here that flips out. So truck mode. Ouch. Good job. Truck mode. Studio Series 86 looks awesome. I don't know much about MMC Coulter's transformation. It just seemed like a good price for the re-release. And I kind of wanted it, because I got the DJD from... Oh god, I say it wrong every time. It's not DX9. Who made the DJD team that I did? Who was it, people? DJD. I mentioned it on a live stream. Which live stream? There he is. Heroes of the DEC. Made by... I don't know. Heroes of the DEC. But I became fascinated with those characters, so I definitely wanted, like, Tarn. That's the thing's name. I wanted Tarn's first... I wanted Tarn as a figure. It doesn't look like a very complex transformation from what I recall, but I just haven't really looked it up. Mostly because I'm not scared of it. Oh, these tab in too. Sorry. These kind of slide in and tab. Except I've discombobulated this tab here. Ow. And then these tab in like that. I'm going to start getting them back to robot mode, or in the direction of... I don't know, I guess the way I shot the video, we never saw going straight from truck mode to foot mode. I guess we could do that. You get to robot mode largely before then. Okay, and then we snap. We fold these away. We lift these up. We slide this out. We overextend these a little bit so that we can pop the joints. We leave the joint slightly open and open up this cavity. Line this up at 90 degrees. And then we lock it in. I'll just go to robot mode. Fuck it. And then we can get this out of the way for now. We can untab the torso from the waist, creating some clearance there. We slide these off their posts. We carefully flip it down all the way here before we try to fold the armatures up, so we don't cause any undue stress. And then these things flip around and tab together. So we'll put this one here. This one flips around. And the two halves tab together, which will make the broken one a little more easy to manage. But fuck, would you stop? God damn. I fall down. I fall down. I'm in the way now. That's how I imagine things talking. It's probably because I'm insane. We're all insane. Alright. So that's that. And then we can move that. Then we can park it out of the way up there, which is where it's supposed to be in robot mode. That's just going to come off all the time. It wasn't so bad in stop motion because I was just doing it so slowly. We pop this hook. We pop this dove. Fold this over. Make sure that we... Hello. How are you doing? Oh yeah, we gotta do the thing. Pop that. Rotate out of the way. Put this here. Flip this over. It's a lot of steps. So Toy World with this. Move it out of the way. Slide all the way out. Flip this. Let me know if anyone starts getting dizzy. Slide this. Flip this over. And you just gotta make sure, boy, every time. You gotta, this joint's really tight. But you wanna walk it past that flap. Like that. And that goes like that. These go out like this. And all right, at this point, to get to robot mode, I have to do a lot of things that don't have anything to do with foot mode, so I'm just going to go ahead and go straight on to foot mode from here, I think. There we go. madness have I gotten myself into here? Oh, yeah, you completely turned around. Anyway, so it's supposed to be like that. And this one... Oh my god, Jesus. Stop that. Gravity. Fuck this one up too. I think that's right. Huh, interesting. That's an interesting conundrum you can get into. Because this is supposed to be like this. And this is supposed to be up. That's what it is. Haha. I got it completely backwards. Peg and tab. Oh, I hate you. I hate you so much. Alright. And then this folds down for his back. There we go. And you go to robot mode. Anyway, so to go to leg mode, we're gonna flatten out these arm joints that we spread when we transformed to robot mode. And for that matter, stayed in robot mode. So we're just gonna make sure that the joint. Oh my God, I'm really screwing this up. Make sure this joint is flat. And you're just popping out these butterflies. And you do invert the arm joint, but you're not doing anything crazy. So now both of those are done. And then the arm bends so it captures the tips of the fingers. Arm bend, capture tips of fingers. And then this flips over so that it's here. And then these stay, you do the 180 bicep turn just like you did for getting out of robot mode. So robot mode, you don't do that turn at all. And then you tab these together. And then you can fold this up as long as the head is put away properly. That's all the way up like that. This part has fallen off again. Anywho. And then you have to do the wheels. And you have to untab the springs. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and slide them out because they're supposed to be slid out. I'm just going faster because there's something else I wanted to discuss, and this fucking thing slid out. Good God, why? I feel like it's because I'm skipping steps, you know, something's in the way. There we go, slid it out. And then lower these down, get them past the wheels. Hello, wheel. So it's a pain in the ass. There's no way around it. If I carefully followed the steps from how I did it in the video, I would have avoided a lot of collisions, but I just don't care anymore. Okay, so what has to happen here is this thing, there's like a, how do I describe this? Just gonna get these out of the way for a second. There's like an armature here, you know, there's like the whole thing folds up vertical. See? So now it's vertical. Boy, is that hard to elucidate. This ends up folding up because you're bringing the tip of this slider, and you do have to get rid of these collision. You have to get rid of that. But you do have these the slider, and you want to bring it up so that it's lined up with this groove between the arm beds at the base of the foot. So you want to bring this up so it's all the way there. There you go. That's your goal. Because then this will slide in, and as long as you splay the beds apart so you can access this, you have to give this a little bit of a squeeze. So you're squeezing this a little bit, and you're just making sure that those tabs go in. And now you've got a nice flat foot. And then you can move these back to the center. So there's the flat, nice flat foot. And then the wheels, you just kind of fight them back together. I believe they stay in, ultimately, in, I don't think it matters. As long as you can get the wheels mated together, you're in business. Because that's not the structure of the foot. The foot doesn't rely on the wheels, which is a smart idea on their part. And then these parts should be it's gonna be a problem for me the whole time, isn't it? Yeah, okay, well, it does kind of matter. Let's try inverting them. There we go. There we go, yeah. These things are always a bit of a hassle. Rotate it the right way and there's space, and rotate it the wrong way and there's not space. In fact, I've screwed it up again, so I still have it wrong. Alright, well, I'm just getting frustrated with bothering with this. That's why when it gets into leg mode, it's going to stay in leg mode. And then we're never going to discuss it again. I guess that is there. Okay. I feel like these... Oh, it's because these are already there when I do that. Okay. Back on track. So this part that falls off because it's broken. There we go. So this ends up there. Those end up, you know, pretty much like robot mode. And with those there, then we can work these. You have to kind of give it some room to move. But you're just putting this together, and it looks like that. Okay? All right. Getting parched. I don't know if I can... how long? I'm 36 minutes into this freaking thing. Bobby dissed Dragoon the other week? Well, I must have missed that. I don't watch everything Bobby. Especially if Bobby's going to discuss like how to transform a figure. I'm not interested in his... I don't want to learn it the wrong way. But I kid. Bobby's fine. I just don't watch every video Bobby makes. He probably doesn't watch any of my videos. So the way the leg works is you, and it's just too dim, I'm sorry, I'm just going to bring it up. There you go. You have to, this is the stiff leg, but you have to walk this up, and there's like a tab slot here, and there's that tab that you've been dodging, and that tab is 4 going into that tab slot. So the leg almost bends 90 degrees or somewhat short of it, you know. But it ends up in that position. We're going to do the same thing over here, except it's going to be easy because the other leg is not so stiff. It's parking, but I like to splay these out temporarily so that I can turn the legs more sideways. It has these hydraulic ornaments that help sell the foot. They aren't used for anything else. But the leg is a real show. So here's the foot. So the foot folds open, and then this, provided yeah, you gotta slide it out. So you gotta slide this outward, and then you flip this down, and then you flip over the 2 segments of that turns out that toe, top half of that toe is made from. So you get a nice flat something or other. Do the same thing over here. I'm just gonna slide this outward and flip it over. All right. Just on this one foot, which I use my handy dandy zoom feature to move in on, you have to pull out this clip. And then this kind of comes out. You might think it sits like this, but it actually ends up sitting kind of like that. It's just, it's kind of weird, but it seems to work. All right. And then make sure we get this hook out. Get out of the way. And then the whole foot, this zigzags into this position. And you want to make sure that it's capturing that hinge right about like that. And then you rotate the whole leg up until you can get this peg that's on that armature to line up with that hole. So you can see it ends up at like a 45-degree angle. But this is the way it's supposed to look. So you don't want the foot rotated, you know, any differently. We do the same thing over here. Bring it over. And we rotate this up. Again, the foot is kind of catching at just this angle where where the hook attaches, and you're just making sure you bring this around. The legs can be splayed out so you can show it. Bring this around and plug in that post. So it should look like that. And then you can see that there's like a big socket that can go in here. So you kind of build this leg around the other dude. Just make sure that your peg you flipped out goes into the peg hole. That comes right back out again. And then you can snap this hook, and you can also work these two dovetails together. They just add a lot of structural integrity to the knee. So you have to really force them together and then push the dovetail in. And then you can put these back in position. And then the only thing left to do really is to fold the leg down a little bit. And then these will flip up and capture the leg. Now I suppose you could leave them unlocked so that you have another joint you can work with, but I think the idea behind these locking like this, and it's firm, is that the leg is largely unanimated, unjointed, and will provide a lot of stability for this thing to sit. The only thing left to do at this point is to go ahead and flip this thing up. It has a tab on it. The tab fits into the back of that area there, and you just kind of, you've got it out of the way now. So this leg will be built around a big square plug on the other figure, and you do have a little tiny bit of an ankle rock. I mean, it's real minimal. But it would let you maybe keep better contact with the surface when this leg's over here and the other leg's over there. So that's him. We'll leave him sitting there for a minute, and then we'll talk about a couple of other things I promised I would talk about. People keep asking who my favorite Transformer in my collection is. I have my favorites organized in order in my playlist called Top 20 or Top 25 or whatever it is. I think it's Top 20. So I have a Top 20 playlist that you can find under playlists at my channel, and the number one figure in that is my number one figure, which is G Creation Ultra Maximus. It's going to get a little of inertia. There's probably going to be better figures that come out than that for me, but it's going to end up being kind of like my traditional favorite. It's a wonderfully complex figure, and it really doesn't have many clearance issues, just the front wheels when you stow them. I think they designed the figure. A lot of these companies seem to design the transformation around there not being rubber tires on it. And then later on, you put the rubber tires on, and you get rubbing when you try to move the wheel hub past an obstruction. So the front wheels have a real clearance issue on that figure. Other than that, it's a great figure, and it's the way it transforms. I mean, it just transforms. It's a boxy tractor trailer, and then next thing you know, it's like this wasp-waisted, awesome-looking robot right out of IDW Comics. So that's pretty sweet. Let's talk about these guys for just a second. I picked this guy up last week. He's okay. He's fine. Some differences I noticed between him and MP44. MP44 is painted. I mean, you can even see, unfortunately, I transform it so much, there's some paint, even this gray is paint. The red is paint. The white is paint. The blue is paint. It is painted. This decoration is not painted. It's plastic. All the black you see is not painted. It's a very nice glittery plastic, but plastic nonetheless. Of course, the chrome is, you could call that coated in some way. There's, a tampo of the Decepticon logo there. What's painted on this thing? Very little. There's very little painting. This gray is all not painted. And the thing that really surprised me about this is the original Optimus Prime, and I've done a video thoroughly discussing this, so I'll just go over the details real quick, the highlights. But the original Optimus Prime had some trouble because the way this joint works, if you don't construct it just right at the factory, or if you don't fold it properly to put it away, you can end up with a situation where the joint pops loose. Explained in a different video, but I just wanted to remind people how clever this is. So there's two joints. There's one click joint that, the center line is about there. And then there's another joint here where the center line is about there. So it's a double knee joint. But the way it's set up is there's this tab, and it rides along the surface, so you can't fold that other joint. When you try to, the primary joint folds as you would want. But when it gets far enough, when the primary joint gets to the end, and I mean that, boy does that white bloom. Let's just let's drag the exposure way down so you can see. So there is a groove. Focus. There is a groove right there in the joint. I can kind of tuck this thing into it. There's a groove right there. And there's this T-shaped tab or L-shaped tab. And until it gets to that groove, it prevents this joint from flexing at all. So it prevents this second joint from moving at all until that L-shaped thing gets to the groove. So when the primary joint folds, it eventually rides on up to the groove, and then it can slip inside the groove, and then the second joint can go. And it's very clever because now the first joint can't go until you undo the second joint. And so it's a really great way to enforce like the aesthetics of the leg. So the L is going to come out of that groove, and once it can, it allows the primary joint to move again, and only the primary joint. So you're only able to move one joint at a time. So you move the primary the whole way, and then the secondary can go. It makes it easy to pose because when you push on his leg, only the correct joint is going to get activated. This guy, they decided to just abandon that clever little idea because I guess they couldn't get people to put it together reliably or package it reliably, so they just changed the joint. So this one is 2 independent joints. And you can end up with some really weird leg positions because you can do either of these joints however you want. And of course this joint only has, you see the ratchet teeth, see the black teeth there. The teeth only go so far, so you can get into a situation where you've gone past the teeth and now that joint feels, you know, it's not geared at all. But that's because you've gotten carried away with the other joint. So I don't know. I don't like the way it feels because it doesn't enforce the double joint, and it just really lets you get, like, you can just fold the bottom joint instead of the top joint. You end up with like a lot of crazy gaps. If you follow the order that is enforced on the other one, then you know, you can do the top joint all the way and then do the bottom joint, and then you have a nice, it folds, you know, as aesthetically as it can, you know. And then when you unfold it, I mean, it's easy to get the top one to go first, so you have to like make sure the bottom one goes first and then the top one. And you know, when you're just kind of grabbing it and posing it on the table, you're never quite sure which joint you're posing. So it has its issues. Part of the problem is I moved my light. It really seems dark. I really brought the exposure up a lot, and it still seems dark. It's odd. Here's the backlight comp. Anywho. So I wish they had kept the joint the same. I wish they had worked out how to produce it without messing it up, but whatever. I had someone engage with me on my channel on one of my videos talking about this is just total garbage. This is not total garbage. It has its flaws, but it also has some really clever mass shifting. His backpack. I mean, there's flaws, but to say it's complete garbage is not an accurate statement. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it presents really well because it's, you know, cartoon. I don't know. I like it. It's not my favorite, but I like it. Someone asked me about this. This guy doesn't seem that hard to me, but they said they were having trouble transforming him, so I'm just going to transform him live. This is going to be easily the simplest part of this video. But I'm just putting the feet together just to keep them organized for now. There's something I have to do to take them apart later, but I don't have to worry about that right now. And so, so what you do is you bring the arms up. Presumably you have them in robot mode. And then these parts, we'll rotate them faceward. Just bring this up. So these parts unfurl around his arm, and there's a little bit of a joint here. So it gives you a little flexibility with how you handle things. You can fold it out like that. Get out of the way. Or you can fold it flat. You can fold it out. You can fold it flat. So when you fold it out, you've got a little room to put the arm down. You flip this up, and then you fold it flat. So it's like that. And you can do the same thing with the other arm. Really, we're just getting out of the way so we can fold the hand down, and then you can flip this up in any which way you can. Just get the arm like that. It's fine. And then we're going to take these, and we're going to bring them together to the front. Make sure everything's lined up. Rotate the arms as needed to get them to, and then they tab together. There's some long flanges that actually serve as tabs, but it all tabs together like that. So now he looks like this. Not too hard. All right. So then you have to get his waist out of the way. So it's got an off-center swivel. And so when you swivel his legs back, you end up with that big gap. And it's my best guess for what you might have trouble with, because if you don't turn his legs around, you're never going to get him to vehicle mode. But then this fits into that gap, like that. And then this can fold up at the elbow joint. And it can fold up and tab in to either side of the cab. So now that's put away. And then you get these out of the way, and you can pull these out. They just kind of unfold and then flip over. And you have to make sure you could have this flap in the way. It wouldn't work. You just have to make sure that it's nice and flat, and this hinge can fit into that groove. Like that. Same thing on the other side. That could be a sore spot for you, because if this isn't perfectly square, there's a little bit of force involved. Let me see if I can figure out what I was... Okay, yeah, so this was rotated out a little bit. Wrong. You just have to make sure that it actually rotates all the way. Basically, this hinge is folded completely flat. And then this part slides in there easily. So maybe that's what you ran into. Hard to say. Then you flip these out. Put the head away. These are made out of rubber, which is super annoying. I wish they were made out of something like not rubber. This fell out of its hole. These go down like this. Straighten the legs up a little bit. We fold up the cowl pieces for the top, and then these just kind of zigzag in and lock into the top. And then you can split this a little bit and pop this trailer hitch up, kind of hyperextend it, tab it back together, and then click it into position. And that's it. So hopefully that sheds some light at some point along the way of where you're running into a bind. I'm thinking it's definitely, if I had to guess, it would be that thing I discovered where the arms, if they're not lined up, you can't get the hinge to slide in here. I do have to do them backwards anyway, because I want to put them back on the shelf, so pop that open, get that out of the way. Flip these down, lock them into position, flip over the cab top. It creates a heel spur for them to stand on, which is nice. Flip this up, there's his crotch. Flip the head out, loosen these up, flip this over, keep them flipped back. We'll talk about this hinge one more time, because it's my best guess as your bind. But we're just splitting the cab, the grill, and we're flipping this up. So if this isn't lining up, if it's not going easily into that groove, then chances are the arm has been twisted so that this red plate is not actually lying flat. So it's actually pulled up at an angle. And you know, it looks right, but this doesn't, how do you, why? So that's probably what you did. So we're just gonna push that up so it's folded completely. And this goes in super easy at that point. So we flip these up, we put them behind. Close up these things. We untab the hood, fold it to elbow. elbow, flip this up, bring the waist around, bring the arms out to the side and tab them into the wheels. There's little pegs and holes. And then this can kind of walk out if you want it to. Or you can just kind of fold it out a little bit and just kind of move both joints simultaneously. You're just trying to free up the hand, and you can wrap this around. If you're taking notes, I think it's 180 for this. Let's see if I'm right. Nope, not quite 180. It's like 90 in some direction. So we're just gonna flip that up this way, and then there he is. Hopefully that helped. That question was asked in the comments by Plopamus Prime. So he can watch this live right now, I don't know. Or he could watch it on the replay later. He comes with like this sword, and it's also made out of that same rubber. I understand you can get complex parts in a single pass when you make it out of that rubber, but and it's good safety. But boy, is it's unpleasant. Nothing ever stays straight in that rubber. The smokestacks themselves are kind of like wonky because they're made out of that rubber. It's dumb. Did Unique Toys go out of business? I mean, I remember there was a picture of a Unique Toys figure in a factory for Wei Zhang, where they came in and raided the factory, and of course the Wei Zhang engineers own examples of other companies. So one theory was that we were seeing Unique Toys in the Fans Toys Astro Train because they own, or whatever the Fans Toys figure was, but they just own those figures. Maybe they had them to, reference or to, get ideas from. I don't know that I saw any news items that said that Unique Toys was definitively kaput. So I'll definitely get Nero. I think they have a great design team, and hopefully that design team can land somewhere else if you're right. Oh yeah, the Transformers Prime, the KO of this figure, is it? Is it this figure? That's cool. Oh, you mean these gaudy red heels? We should put the birthday boy here. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, they don't have to use. You don't have to use the rubbery plastic if you don't want. A knockout KO. Yeah, they could do the whole line. Yeah, Wei Zhang is gone, and it's a shame because they actually had some original figures. Apparently Vimy Toys that made that little super deformed Dragoon style Megatron, the Last Night Megatron, and his head was really big. That thing was so fun, and that was made by a company called Vimy Toys, which are apparently owned by Wei Zhang. So now, I had pre-ordered the Vimy Toys, the two halves of the ice cream truck, those two guys, and apparently Vimy Toys is no more because Wei Zhang is no more. Just crazy. They might lay low. The thing is, Unique Toys has been doing movie style figures, but they aren't ripping off Hasbro designs. They are arguably ripping off the movie design because they're trying to make it look exactly like the movie, but it's really hard to argue in court when two things look similar but aren't exactly similar. If there was an official CG model of Dragoon of Last Night Megatron, and you could demonstrate that Unique Toys had nailed the exact proportions of that, which obviously they haven't because there's transformation limitations to nailing the exact proportions of the Michael Bay CG figure, then you could argue that they stole the exact proportions of that design. But there's a lot of different interpretations of that design. They have one. It's limited by the transformation joints and things like that. That kind of like the Dragoon's calves are too thick. Same thing with Challenger. They pack a lot of stuff into like the lower legs of the lower legs of the figures, and so they end up like too fat. So if I had to argue in court, like, this design is not the same as this design, I would look at the proportions. They're different. I mean, obviously it pays homage, but how far do you want to get down the rabbit hole if it looks exactly like? The reason they can go after Wei Zhang is because Wei Zhang is like legit just stealing their actual, like, the molds. Like they're getting the figure, and I think they're like 3D scanning it, and they're just basically copying it exactly. Which means you can go to court and you can be like, this is exactly like this. And, Wei Zhang can be like, but we added a little extra step right here. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to get away with that. 99% of the design is exactly Hasbro's design. It's just bigger. I think that's why they can go after Wei Zhang, or why China can go after Wei Zhang. But I think Unique Toys maybe would lay low. They've been staying in their lane. They've been doing movie figures, but only movie figures that Hasbro isn't currently trying to do. So they've been doing like later movie figures. Hasbro's they only just got to Ratchet, so they're in no danger of catching up with where Unique Toys is anytime soon. Same thing with Unique Toys. I think probably helped with the DX9 here because it's just so gorgeous and it works so well. It's got to be the same designers, and even that figure's from the later movies, from last night or whatever. So I don't know. I don't think Unique Toys really stepped in it, and I could see maybe an argument that they are trying to just stay out of the way while shit goes down. But I don't know. I don't see Unique Toys being in trouble any more than anyone else has been over the years. It's just too expensive to prove. The only reason they went after Zeta and their version of Unicron that ended up being rebranded as Studio Cell or whatever. The only reason it was worth it to them to go after them is just to delay them, to make them stop advertising their other Unicron while Hasbro was in the middle of a fundraiser for their official Siege-style Unicron. Their ridiculously oversized, poorly designed Unicron. So it made sense for Hasbro to kind of go after Zeta in that case, because they just wanted to delay Zeta as long as they could. Zeta ended up releasing it, and they just released the head in a separate package, and you're not, they got away with it. I don't see third-party toys as being something that Hasbro wants to go after, unless they're producing something that's like right in Hasbro's lane. So I could see them going after Fans Toys to some extent, because Fans Toys is like right there doing G1 figures, just right there doing the same line of figures. Maybe, but I think that for the most part they see that it's just a niche market. It's only a few thousand pieces, and it's just not worth their trouble to go after them. Well, I hope the Unique Toy team doesn't just go on vacation. I'd like to see them continue to make. I'll recognize their design work at another studio if they end up doing that. Anyway, we're just over an hour into this, and our topics are exhausted, I think. I'll give the comment section a minute to say any last words that they want to say. Maybe YouTube will pick the picture that has all of them in the picture. There we go. They're all in the picture. All right, gang. We'll expect the MMC version of Tarn called Coulter this Sunday. Expect maybe Tigatron someday. And yeah, I'm going to get Studio Series 86 figures. They're cool. It's totally dope. That hot rod's super cool. They're all cool. I like them. Looking forward to it. I mean, frankly, the RC that they recently released in Earthrise is practically like a refugee from Studio Series 86. I wouldn't be surprised if they turned around and put that RC into Studio Series 86 packaging. Because, and I mean, for God's sakes, they just released the Quintessons as an Earthrise figure, but it's obviously intended for the Studio Series 86 line. I don't know why the lines kind of leak into each other like that, but they do. Yeah, I mean, Unique Toys is super clever and super clean with good clearances. Toy World is still super clever, but and clean. Like I mean, this is really good. That's a really good foot. Lots of interesting design, interesting steps that you go through to get there. But it's so puzzly, and the clearances are so wonky. You can find yourself trying to move a part and convince yourself like I can't move this part. I don't know why. I guess I can't figure out how to get to the mode. And then you realize that you got to fight that part past another part. And it's a little disappointing when you have that. Unique Toys is, they're Lahir or not Lahir. Well, Lahir, I give them credit for that because I feel like they were involved. But Peru Kill, Challenger, Dragoon, and by all appearances Nero. I'll assume Nero at this point based on the other three. Really clean, smooth designs. Very, just, stuff disappears and suddenly the figures actually have backs instead of just having a bunch of, say what you will about Takar, but they like to just pack a bunch of shit on the back. There's... Unique Toys is real clean design. I think the only problem they have is all three of those figures have very poor ankle articulation because the ankles, like that area of the leg is just so involved in the transformation that they can't put in proper ankle articulation. So Peru Kill, Challenger, and Dragoon all suffer from lackluster ankle articulation. I mean, they can strike a normal A stance pose, but you're not going to do too much with the ankles, unfortunately. All right, gang. Well, I appreciate everyone stopping by. I've had 265 playbacks so far. My concurrent viewers crested 13 at one point. Woo! That's fun. 13 people saw me at the same time. And of course, a few of you have been here through the whole darn stream. I don't know why you don't have anything better to do with your lives. Gonna head out. Gonna set you free to go do what you need to do. And look for Coulter from MMC this Sunday. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.